had this great idea, and by we, I mean Mike and Kendall, that we should do episodic of the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni drama that starts with Ends With Us. We had episode 1 yesterday. You can watch that on the old YouTube. Then we're going to have episode 2 today. Mike, where did we stop, or where did we end yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday we kind of went through the beginning portions, dealing with Wayfarer, kind of the idea that they're working with Colleen Hoover on this project. And then we talked a little bit about the receipts, about the conversations that they had behind the scenes. But then we ended right at pre-promotion.
Yeah.
And promo for this movie. And that's where we are going to pick things up today. Now, it ends with us. I found a lot of really good articles about this whole situation. Then kind of after the fact, we didn't get a chance to really reflect on it while it was happening, because it was hard for us to really know, okay, what's happening as we see it. Some of the things were obvious, and we're like, hey, we're going to call this out. Others, not so much. But I did love this one article that basically said, it ends with us promos are treating the audience the same way Ryle treated Lily, with gaslighting and deception.
Ooh.
So it really just kind of dove right in there. And that's kind of where we're going to start things, because this movie from the get-go, from a production standpoint, from a promotional standpoint, I should say, they really wanted this to be sold to us as this summer's big rom-com.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know from the movie, there's no rom or com involved with it to just kind of take back the story of what Colleen Hoover did with this book. And you guys kind of talked about this yesterday. You can maybe go into a little more detail, but this is about the relationship. And she kind of wrote this book based on her own experience with her parents.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no comedy tied to that.
No.
You know?
No.
And this is a direction they decided to go with it. And the word they kept using when I looked back at all of these details is worldwide phenomenon. They kept saying, come experience this worldwide phenomenon. That's what they kept using when they were referring to this movie.
Why do you think it was marketed in this way? Like what?
Barbie.
Barbie.
Oh.
It was because of Barbie.
So we
And
had the
their
year
major
prior.
success.
The year before, what did we have? We had Barbenheimer. We had this idea that you could create this Barbie movie, which was predominantly geared towards women, and then also had this Oppenheimer, which would happen to be the Best Picture winner. And you kind of bridge those two audiences, and you got a lot of people to go watch both of them. Well, this year, what did we have? Wolverine and Deadpool. And it ends with us. And I feel like so many, we'll get into some of the cross promotion, but so much of what we saw from a marketing standpoint was this is this year's Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, all the flowers and fun.
Mm-hmm. Tonally, that doesn't work.
Right.
You can't take this movie and compare it to this movie that has a perfect wide release for everyone, like Barbie, that can be used for so many different generations, and then the tone of this movie and try to pigeonhole into that. You just can't do it. And that's what I feel like from the get-go they tried to do. Now, I will say this is interesting because I discovered a story today that I hadn't heard this entire time. Blake Lively is kind of the lightning rod for a lot of this attention, a lot of these details, but apparently Colleen Hoover had a little misstep in her past when it came to marketing It Ends With Us.
The book itself?
The book itself.
So the author.
The author, Colleen Hoover, apparently right away when she released this movie, she released a follow-up coloring book based on the novel.
A coloring book based off of a domestic violence novel.
Correct.
Yeah, that's okay. Can I tell you this side note?
Yeah.
I went into this book blind. So I also experienced
Sure.
I did not like, because Colleen Hoover writes all sorts of things. In fact,
Yes, yeah.
this is like her first one that I've ever read that dealt with this subject matter. So I also thought I was going to read a rom-com and was a little surprised. So like the Whiplash is such a, like, what? What do you mean a coloring book?
And she clearly and immediately, it was almost pulled immediately because people just said how inappropriate this is. And the whole idea that this was just, she did apologize. She said it was a tone deaf project. But again, it was just an opportunity for her to try to capitalize on, because she is a massive success. Everything she pumps out is just listened or read by everybody.
Yeah.
And this was just an example of trying to market a book in a slightly different way. So maybe PR missteps weren't always just Blake Lively joining the conversation.
You know, maybe that just happens when you're so close to the material. The shock, I don't know. Maybe that's just like, or where you're somebody like Blake Lively, who has now marketed movies, including Wolverine and Deadpool. She was an intricate part in dressing the part and being on the red carpet.
Yeah.
That you're just too close to it.
Mm-hmm. So we continue the conversation from there to the trailer, because again, this whole idea that they're trying to make it this Barbie type of grab the girl type thing, and we'll get to that specific quote here in a second. But let's look at the trailer. The first trailer drops, and if you don't know, like you said, Brittany, going into it, the trailer did receive a lot of criticism, but I will say most of the criticism for the trailer came after the fact, because when I watched it today. And I just said, okay, try to remove myself from everything. Just watch the trailer, take it for what it is. I felt like it did a pretty good job of painting a really rosy picture to start. And then halfway through, oh boy, police are involved. There's a scar on your face. This is not good.
Yeah.
And I think it did a decent job of that. So I'm going to say, despite some of the criticism you made here about the original trailer, I think they did a decent job when it comes to that.
Okay.
When it comes to the cover photo, however...
Not so much.
You all know exactly what we're talking about. Flower in the hair, the beautiful Blake Lively picture. Warm smile, colorful flowers, and just, this ready to love vibe. Mm-hmm. Doesn't give domestic violence.
And I wonder, okay, again, I am I try not to come from a place of gotcha.
Yeah.
I wonder if their thought around this was what the outside sees compared
survivorship.
To this. Yeah, sure. What the outside sees, and the idea of it does look, people's can look perfect,
right? And
I did like that part of the movie is that they're this man is a surgeon who hits his wife. You know what I mean? And they seemingly have everything, and it is not often how movies depict domestic assault, but. Maybe there was an art choice there, but either way, in retrospect, with these glasses, it just feels a little tone deaf.
And forced.
Yeah. So again, promotion continues. That trailer, by the way, did rack up 128.1 million views in the first 24 hours. It became the biggest female event movie trailer in recent years, is how it was described.
Wow. Well, people were stoked for this movie.
Yeah. You had Taylor Swift tied to it. She, of course, had the song in the background. I think, was Ricochet the song? My Tears Ricochet. I think
so.
I think that was, I don't remember exactly.
You're the only people who know this.
Yes, I know.
Or care.
So they had that. So there's plenty of flaws when it comes to it. And then you did mention the fact that she also used this as a marketing opportunity, not just for her husband, but also for her own brands.
Oh,
we found out
Blake Lively's brands.
Blake Lively did. Mm-hmm. We found out about the Betty Buzz, the gourmet soda and alcohol brands, and then also Betty Blooms. They had this big cocktail event there, and then of course Blake Brown hair care.
Which she did. I remember she addressed it and said, listen, this was not supposed to roll out with the movie. It was supposed to roll out back in February. The packaging was wrong, or there was just something wrong with it. Well, so it got pushed back. And we were like, okay, I guess. Just seems kind of weird.
And then keep in mind, this was during the writer's strike, too, where things were coming out at weird times, not as systematic.
You're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The movie was supposed to come out in February.
Yeah.
And she was like, it wasn't supposed to be like this. But the contracts, I have to get this hair care when I said I was going to get out. It has to come out. So we kind of got that.
Yeah.
So we haven't quite got to the red carpet yet. We're talking a little bit again about this backlash. But here is one of the first push moments we started to get pushback from social media. And here's kind of the big lightning rod TikTok that went viral around It Ends With Us. If it'll...
Hello, Blake Lively here. Colleen Hoover. And It Ends With Us is in theaters now. So grab your friends, wear your florals, and head out to see it.
I want to see you again.
Oh, now you see me.
Share the emotion. Share the experience. Share the worldwide phenomenon together.
You're the best friend I ever had.
It Ends With Us, now playing exclusively in theaters.
Now, again, that trailer really focused on the relationship she has with her girlfriend in the movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole thing was the bring your friends, wear the florals. That's what was said there in that trailer. And it just seems a little odd. And again, the tone is a little misguided.
It's like that should have been the promo for the movie after It Ends With Us, where we're like, what happens to Lily and how does she rebuild her life and become the happy, flower-filled person she wants to be, not the, we're going into this hard.
And also keep in mind, it's really confusing to navigate as well because the female friendship they're talking about is actually her abuser's sister in the movie.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So it gets a little it gets a little complicated.
It's also more complicated when, again, the biggest movie of the year is Deadpool and Wolverine, the movie where her husband is in. And when you've got a movie about domestic violence and then a movie that is as lighthearted and as tongue-in-cheek as the entire Deadpool and Wolverine is, it makes for really interesting cross-promotion opportunities like this moment when Ryan Reynolds crashed Brendan Skellner, the co-star of the movie It Ends With Us, played Atlas in the movie. He crashed one of his promotional moments for It Ends With Us.
Thank you, Brandon. I love the movie.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Okay.
Oh, God.
This is cool. It's not every day the husband gets to interview his wife's love interest in a film. It's kind of crazy.
I don't remember seeing this on the schedule.
Dive in, shall we? So I saw you posing in a photo with Mrs. Reynolds, and I'm sorry, what do you call her? Do you guys have a nickname or something? Okay, no, just so it's Mrs. Okay. Anyway, I saw this photo. It was very suggestive. So
Now, this is the beginning, 30 seconds of what turned out to be a 5-minute bit where he is really leaning into the comedy aspect. He even brings his mother out to do some of these bits with Brandon, the co-star. And the whole thing, again, screams Deadpool and Wolverine way more than a domestic violence movie like It Ends With Us.
And here's the thing. The character Ryle that abuses Lily in this movie, his big thing is jealousy.
Yeah.
And so the idea that you have your actual husband coming out at your workplace is all red flags for domestic abuse.
Good point.
It's like, what are we doing here? What do you mean that he's coming to your workplace and making your coworkers feel awkward because he thinks there's something going on? Hello?
And if you have no idea what the movie is about and you just think it's just like to your point, like a rom-com because of the way that they've kind of been promoting this, you go, oh, that's funny. Like, that's a very Ryan Reynolds bit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, to
Like,
jokingly
you kissed
make,
my wife.
Yeah. And then you go, wait, what?
Yeah, and we head to the red carpet next, the red carpet premiere. Now, we do know a lot more about this red carpet premiere now that some more of this information is coming out. I'm going to take this from the lens of what we knew at that time. So let me just say that to begin with. We will be talking more about what happened at that red carpet after the fact. But what we knew is, for the most part, what looked like a pretty normal red carpet. Everyone was there. The celebs are there. The couple of things that might have been a little odd is you did have, of course, Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively, all the members of the show or members of the movie. Ryan Reynolds was there. He also, of course, had Hugh Jackman there in tow because they just had done the premiere for Deadpool and Wolverine a few weeks earlier. The one thing, though, is all of the casts were posing for pictures together, but not with Justin Baldoni and his wife. And it's bizarre now after you think about it and after we started to look back in the lens of, okay, there's a lawsuit. Prior to that, though, you're just like, oh, okay, whatever. Does this mean the cast didn't like him? Did this mean...
You can't sit with us.
Yeah. Since we talked about it, the episode prior to this where there was a talk around these two not getting along, we all kind of thought, well, if the whole cast doesn't seem to take photos with him, he must be
a jerk.
Kind of a bad leader. And that's where we fell with it. Like, I was like, the fact that everybody is not taking photos with him, it said a lot without saying anything.
And again, we'll know a lot more context to that later on as we roll through these series of movies. But I do want to say, because I know you mentioned this, Kendall, that when she was promoting and talking about the fact that Blake Brown hair wasn't supposed to be coming out when the movie came out, that just so happened to happen. She has said that since then. She wasn't shying away from it during the promotion of the movie. Here is her on the red carpet. And by the way, to really kind of hone in on that, grab your girls, we're going to have a good time. Let's not forget the dress she was wearing on the red carpet. It was the one-strap Versace dress that was previously worn by Britney Spears.
Yeah.
And she was rocking that dress, and here she was asked about it.
Well, this is Britney's Versace dress, 2002, the butterfly dress. And this dress meant so much to me. Oh my God, my husband's getting soaking wet in the rain. It meant so much to me. I feel like you poured a lot into this movie, but then you turned around and you were just as supportive of Ryan. What is it like to... And my hair care company, Blake Brown, my goodness gracious. It's been crazy. It's been a crazy week. I haven't slept in like a lot of time.
So again, she wasn't shying away from it when she was on the red carpet for It Ends With Us.
And you kind of you give her grace in the sense of like, this was one interview,
one train of thought. Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, it's been a crazy week. I've been promoting his movie. I've been promoting my hair care line. I've been doing this. Like, it's been wild. You try to give her that grace,
I
right?
I do. I mean, and that's in that. If that was like the only thing, I do give her that grace because it was kind of like a train of thought of like, oh my God, you have no idea. Also, the nanny quit. You know, what I mean, they're just like naming inconveniences or like things.
Well, an entity that didn't give her grace because the premiere happens. They do all those things. And then the internet takes a hold of it. Social media takes a hold of it. And this is when we start seeing, okay, Blake Lively, that moment, just hearing the whole fact that this movie is not what people thought. So let's actually talk about the movie gets released and people go to it. They check it out. Does great. I mean, from a box office standpoint, their marketing from a financial standpoint worked out really, really well. We're talking about $50 million for its debut. So $50 million for this movie that, quite frankly, given the tone of it, given the idea of it, I don't think anyone expected it to do that well.
No.
And did you say that was just domestically and internationally? It was like 80 million?
Exactly.
I mean, that's crazy.
80 million internationally. And it was released, in the 3,600 venues it was released. It did 50 million domestically, 80 overall. So a huge win for Sony Pictures.
Huge.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of this, we actually thought, okay, whatever happened controversially wise or on the set doesn't really matter because as long as the movie does well, this was off the heels of another movie that we thought was going to do well. And there was a bunch of controversy around it and how quickly we went, well, who cares? Because this one actually did well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Don't Worry, Darling.
Yes, thank you.
It's like, oh, this movie actually is not that good either.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of parallels because of the way that social media kind of attacked both of those movies and what happened behind the scenes. And I will say, though, but because of the fact that people went to the movie and maybe were like, this isn't what I was sold. You told me this was a rom-com, bring the girls, we're going to go have a really good time. And I know this from my wife's experience because she kind of had that vibe, took her best friend and was like, that's not what I was expecting at all. And then that's when the internet kind of came after her. That's when we started seeing some of these old clips, some of these old interviews pop up and really started attacking Blake Lively. And let's start with one. This one actually still is about It Ends With Us. And this YouTuber was trying to ask her the question, look, this is a hard topic and people are going to want to be able to talk to you about it. How are you going to approach that situation?
A deeply personal level, they're really going to want to talk to you. This movie is going to affect people and they're going to want to tell you about their life. So if someone understands the themes of this movie, comes across you in public, and they want to really talk to you, what's the best way for them to be able to talk to you about this? How would you recommend they go about it?
Like asking for like my address or my phone number or like my location share. Or I could just location share you and then we could the wardrobe really.
Wow.
The little giggle at the end doesn't, I don't know. She seemed very annoyed by that situation. And then, of course, there was the most famous of these former interviews that took place. This one here when she was talking to a, what was her name? I've got it here.
A journalist.
Yes, a journalist, but she's I believe, Swedish?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Swedish journalist who was having a conversation and just asking her a little bit about the movie. And this was a different movie.
Yeah, this was a one with Parker Posey.
Exactly. So her and Parker Posey are sitting down for the interview. And this is the one that went pretty viral after people kind of turned on Blake.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
At this point, Blake had announced she was pregnant.
Blake had announced she was pregnant. So
she's very visibly pregnant.
Yes. She started by just saying that. And then they went on again. She asked about the wardrobe.
Love wearing those kind of clothes that you...
Yeah.
And, working in
Everyone
digital...
wants to talk about the clothes, but I wonder if they would ask the men about the clothes.
I would. I love Jesse's suits and how
that's what I'm saying. His wardrobe was beautiful.
I know.
Corey's wardrobe was
I know.
gorgeous. Those
so
high-waisted pants.
He's so great.
I would wish men wore
sorry
high-waisted
too.
pants.
I know.
So she just rolls on and on and on more about, well, I wish other people would, ask about the men about these questions.
She knew what she was doing.
She knew exactly what she was doing. She refused to look back at the interviewer at that time. And the whole thing was just really awkward. That interviewer has actually gone out and said, this almost made me want to quit my profession.
Yeah.
That's the way I felt. Kiersey Flaw is actually, I believe, how you pronounce her name.
She
So it was a
gets mean
4-minute long. She absolutely does.
Blake Lively does,
Blake Lively can get mean girl to people real quick.
And
like
when
on a dime.
And this was just giving you a feel of the internet had turned on Blake. They had seen enough and they had we have receipts. And this actually, journalist is the one that posted this video going, hey, this was the roughest time of my life.
So that's
Wild.
part 2. Some of the details again leading up to it. And next we're going to learn tomorrow. And of course, on part 3 of this video, we'll learn even more about the post-release details and that first lawsuit.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Like, subscribe, comment. Tell us how you feel things are going in the comment section.